thanks to that, my brother and I were able to live a great life, be able to learn things like computer science, and ultimately be successful. So after growing up here, what I did realize though was I was part of a community center where we learned about my own religion and culture. And one thing we always talked about was the value of service to the community. We called it seva, which means giving more than what we take. We have gotten so much from this community, so much from this country, but there's so much that we have to give back because not everyone has as good schools as we do. Not everyone has the same opportunities of success as we do. And for people like us who are able to reach these heights, it's incumbent on us to actually go and help other people out. And that's what really drew me to public service. So I did my undergrad in computer science at Stanford, and yes, I did work in the Silicon Valley space. I worked in startups, I did a lot of web development, including AWS certified, Azure and GCP, you might all be aware of that. But what I soon just realized was that there's more than enough people working on this in the private sector, but there often isn't even a single person working on some of these issues in the public sector. So that's what led me in 2020 to decide to go work in the federal government on election security and cybersecurity. So I worked in the federal government, and what we did is we created a system where we would work with states and local election officials across the country to scan their websites for vulnerabilities and notify them if something was wrong, in case election data was exfiltrated or they had an unpatched vulnerability. I'm sure people who are in IT will understand those words. But what we did was so important because a lot of these local and state offices just didn't have funding. The legislators in those areas didn't have the tech expertise. They didn't realize how much these things had evolved and how we needed that kind of investment to keep our elections safe. So 2020, in terms of election security, was a success. We were able to do a lot of good work to make sure that our votes were counted. However, in 2020's biggest threat was not hackers trying to hack into the election, but it was politicians just making things up for their personal gain. And I saw that because I worked with both Democrats and Republicans across the country, secretaries of states who were often elected from both parties. Their goal was to keep the election safe. But Donald Trump and his folks, once they realized that the election was not going their way, they just tried to undermine all the work we were doing. And that's when I just saw the danger of people who lose their moral compass, just like Mr. Rahim Shah was saying. When they don't really think about what's right and what's wrong, and they're just focused on holding on to power. And for me, growing up, like the values I learned were we need to have honesty, you need to have humility and integrity above all, and that's what makes you an effective leader and what's going to actually help your community go forward. So after all that happened, continued working in the government. I went to law school at Georgetown, so I have a tech law background, and I just started to realize that the kind of background I had is a background that I feel like could really make a huge difference somewhere back home like Georgia, because we have an incredible tech industry. We have places like Georgia Tech, but we need just more talent in order to really take our state and our community to the next level. When I would come back here, I would see that we still have some of the best schools in the state, but our teachers still are not being paid even a fair wage at all. We still don't have enough resources for mental health in schools for students, and we still have extreme abortion bans in Georgia. We don't have really the kinds of things we need in our future. Just think about MARTA, for example, and imagine what would Georgia look if we had a very well-functioning public transit system, just like DC or the Bay Area. It would improve business so much, and it would make it much more accessible for everyone. So that's why I decided that I want to come and work on these issues, whether it's funding our education system, whether it's lowering our healthcare costs by expanding Medicaid, and whether it's by making sure that we're growing sustainably and we have housing that's affordable and that people can live in, and a future that young people can look forward to, so that instead of having a brain drain where talented young people move off to New York or somewhere else, we want people to come here and ensure that this is a tech hub and can really be that area where we're making that innovation and AI, cyber, and technology. What happened, and the reason I picked this particular Senate seat, was last year in August 2023, I realized that not only are these issues not being addressed, but the incumbent state senator in the seat was literally criminally indicted for trying to overturn the election results. His name is Sean Still, and he's amongst the over a dozen people indicted with Donald Trump. And the reality is, he did the exact opposite of what I've been working throughout my time in the government doing. And that's when I just realized that here's an opportunity, because this is one of the closest districts in the state of Georgia in terms of partisanship. It's an area where we have lots of people who are just in the middle and don't want people at the extremes. They don't want people who are going to, commit crimes and maybe go to jail. They also don't want people who are just going to completely take one extreme. And that's why my message to voters has been, let's come together, and I'm coming for a voice of the next generation. Because the next generation, we're the ones who are going to inherit this country. We're the ones who are going to outlive, really, all the older folks. It's true, right? Just ask your kids. But we're the ones who will really make that change, and we need to make that difference. And we see the fact that polarization is what is really killing this country. And we need folks who are going to listen to both sides, who are going to respect both sides, and make sure that we're able to make progress together. So that's why I'm running for state senate here. Last thing I'll say is my district includes this area, of course. It also includes most of Johns Creek, and includes parts of Alpharetta, Cumming, Suwannee, Sugar Hill, and Beaufort. So it's a fairly big district. But we have a path to victory. It just will take a lot of effort. We're doing a lot of canvassing, door knocking. We're also raising a lot of money, which is why I'm so grateful all of you are here today, because that's what we need. We have to contact voters. We have to get them to know that hope is still there. Politics is not just about the fighting you see on TV. There are people at the local level who can actually make that change and can really create the future we want. Because I think that my vision here is not just about me winning this election in 2024. It's thinking about what does Georgia, what does the nation look like 10, 15 years from now. I hope that we will see dozens or hundreds of Ashwins, people inspired by me, to actually go and run in their own communities. I want to see people who go to incredible schools. Some of them can still go make money in tech and all these other things, but some of them should also consider coming back to their hometowns and serving their own communities. Because think of what would happen if all that talent actually worked in local government, how much better our public services would be, and how much happier it would be with their lives. So that's why I'm really grateful for all your support, and I ask you to continue to support me. Please tell your friends about the campaign, and please really, let's make this race flipped this November. Thank you.